Hey everyone, this is Will from Beijing, China, and welcome to this brand new and exciting episode of The Missing Piece. Pakistan's National Assembly on Monday elected a brand new prime minister, capping a stunning political reversal after Imran Khan was ousted in a no-confidence vote over the weekend. For decades, that if you follow our show, that we have been addressing this positive and also this healthful relationship between China and Pakistan. And since the pandemic changed the entire world, and China has been actively distributing the vaccines and also financial packages across the world, and needless to say that we know the country of Pakistan has become one of the major recipients for those resources. Now, it's such a surprising and a stunning political change that the prime minister right now is on the way to become the brand new leader for the country. But if I'm not mistaken, some major media call the current new minister a good old friend of China. And the question that we need to ask, does China need old friend? Or under globalization, the world needs to realize that actually new partners can play better than the previous one. So that's why today, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to invite Dr. Kahut. And again, if you follow our show, that you know that Dr. Kahut is one of the knowledgeable and experienced expertise in this relationship between Pakistan and China. And he shared numerous in our episodes regarding this healthful economic relationship between the two countries. And most importantly, he shared with us today why this new minister actually is going to bring more messages to the country of China from this economic partnership and also for more information. Dr. Kahut, welcome back to The Missing Piece.
My pleasure, Mr. Will.
Now, Dr. Kahut, again, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a short, but this is also very stunning message and coming out from Pakistan. Over the weekend, the country elected a brand new leader. Now, most of us that we really don't know the details behind this political election or behind this shift. So the first thing is, can you help us or can you walk us through what actually took place over the weekend and how come that the country that we're experiencing and we're witnessing today, so close to China, just elected this brand new prime minister?
Yeah, as you know, that Pakistan is one of the well-functioned democracy in the world, and we have the parliamentary, the democratic system in our country. So there was a vote of no confidence motion against the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. And so through that democratic transition, Pakistan has elected a new prime minister whose name is Mr. Sharif this weekend. So he is the 23rd prime minister of Pakistan. And historically, actually, he's not a new name in Pakistani politics. He's actually in Pakistani politics since last 30 years. And he has been the chief minister of the province of Punjab, which is the largest province of Pakistan. And he has been the chief minister of that province for more than 2 times, and one term considered of 5 years. So you can say that he has been the chief minister of the largest province of Pakistan for more than 15 years. So he is, one of the most seasoned politician in Pakistan and a Democrat and a very good friend of China. And he has been to China more than, you can say, maybe 10 times. Overall, like all of his 15 to 18 years of being in the government at provincial level. So this is the first time that he has been elected at the federal level. And finally, now Mr. Sharif is the Shahbaz Sharif to be very precise, because earlier his elder brother, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, was the three-time Prime Minister of Pakistan. So historically, this family actually, they are in politics and they are ruling, you can say, Pakistan for more than 20 years now.
Well, Dr. Kahut, again, as I mentioned in the intro, and also you briefly touch on, that this new prime minister actually, if we can trace this relationship between him and China, we can bring this relationship back so many years ago. And again, based on the reports that we gather over the weekend and until this point, some media call the new prime minister a good old friend of China. What does that mean, especially that we are paying attention to the word good old friend of China? Because, again, the Chinese leader, took place in the year of 2012, which is President Xi Jinping. But how many years that should we trace all the way back to understand this term good old friend? And what does that mean politically and also economically when we use this term today?
Yeah, to understand this term, you must first look into the history of Pakistan-China relationship. Primarily the economic cooperation between Pakistan and China, it got increased, especially in the 90s, 1990 and onwards. The pace of the economic cooperation in between these two countries, it actually got expedited in that era. Well, that was the precise era, as I told you earlier, that in that era, this family, the Sharif family, to this family, the current prime minister also belonged to. So this family started ruling actually in late 80s. First, the province of Punjab, which is the largest province, which is actually by population 2/3 of whole of the population of Pakistan.
Wow.
So from that time, and then in the early 90s, his elder brother, the now prime minister, his elder brother became the prime minister of Pakistan for 2 times in that era. So Chinese friends actually know him very well, and historically, during the era of this family's leadership in Pakistan, we saw the more and more Chinese projects being established in Pakistan, more and more cooperation with Pakistan. And frankly, I must tell you one interesting thing. During the prime minister term of his elder brother, the elder brother of now prime minister, so his name was Nawaz Sharif. So during his term, which was from 2013 to 2018, so during that term, the now prime minister was the chief minister of the province of Punjab.
Wow.
So in that term, actually, he worked on the with the cooperation with the, as you must have heard, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So he personally was spearheading this CPEC initiative in the province of Punjab. So during his time period from 2013 to 2018, his speed of working on those projects was phenomenal. So during that era, because his name is his Shehbaz, his first name, so the Chinese media reported him in that time that these projects in Pakistan have been completed with the Shehbaz speed, right? With the Shehbaz speed.
Right.
So Chinese friends, the Chinese authorities, they always praise him a lot because he worked, more than 18 hours a day, and he's so professional, and he has stated in his various interviews that economic cooperation with China is his first priority, and so that's why he has been quoted in the Chinese circles as one of the best friends of China overseas.
Dr. Kahut, as we are celebrating this new prime minister, but meanwhile, I also want to bring something to your attention as well. as the whole prime minister is getting ready to step into this new position, and again, for many countries, specifically for China and any other countries in Asia, they're looking forward to this dialogue, or they're looking forward to this strategic partnership. But meanwhile, the supporters from the previous prime minister were holding this boycott, or holding this protest and rally towards this new election. Again, Dr. Kahut, we know that for every single country, political election is very much different. And also the political atmosphere is very different. So I want to get to the core to the question is, why do you think that some of the supporters for our previous prime minister are still not accepting this result? So in other words, why are they protesting? I mean, ultimately, this is a good thing for the country. Ultimately, this is something, it's a new chapter for the country. Why bother to hold a protest, or why bother to boycott the result? What message do you think they're trying to accomplish or trying to achieve?
Yeah, because the previous government, which actually ended just very recently, so that government was actually facing some very staunch opposition from the opposition parties. So actually there is no political election yet. So they actually ousted him through the no confidence motion, which is the very important part of the parliamentary democracy, which the Pakistan is. So the anger or the anguish of the past leadership is, I think, very understandable, because they think that they should have given a full chance to complete their 5 years term. So in Pakistan, like one premier, the one term is 5 years. So their government was, you can say, ousted through the vote of no confidence after 3 years and 7 months. But, most of the things, like most of the times, people in our part of the world, they believe a lot on the conspiracy theories. And unfortunately, Pakistan's past, we have been the part of the war in Afghanistan historically, because we have been the front line, ally state of the United States. And first, we were the part of the war, or whatever you can say, in Afghanistan when the Russia was there, and later on with the Taliban. So historically, our people has this conspiracy bias against the United States. So every time when there is some unusual event happen in Pakistan, so our people try to link it, some sort of conspiracy theory that maybe the Western imperial forces or the US, and maybe they are behind that. So similarly, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Khan, when he was ousted through the vote of no confidence, so he and most of his followers, they raised the same slogan, that the United States is against, and he's behind this regime change in Pakistan. So actually, that's why they are like opposing this whole regime shift. So, well, this is a part and parcel of the parliamentary democracy, that you have the opposition, you have the trigger benches. So I must say that it's part of the political process.
Dr. Kahut, I want to bring up the next topic. Is we all know that, again, previously, that when you participate our episodes, and everyone is familiar that you are the expert on economic corridor. I mean, this is one of the major projects that between China and Pakistan, and also, of course, that involve a lot more countries, similar as Belt and Road Initiative. Again, looking ahead, we want to know that how this brand new prime minister is going to continue to reinforce the project of the economic corridor, and also a corridor, and also how do you think that this brand new prime minister is going to work closely with China under Belt and Road Initiative? Now, keep in mind that not too long ago, the foreign minister of China just paid a visit to a lot more countries in the Middle East, and he actually met up with the representative in Pakistan. Now, again, very soon, the whole government just got changed. So, from your perspective, under this new administration or under this new leader, how do you think the economic corridor or the Belt and Road Initiative will would be continuing to make impact for both countries?
Well, you see the China-Pakistan economic corridor or the economic cooperation between China and Pakistan. So it's not a new phenomenon. It is very historical. The relationship of China and Pakistan, they have their roots like history. I mean, they are more than 70 years old, like both the countries. So, so it's not a new phenomenon. So whosoever the regime is, the projects are there, and the pace of cooperation. Yes, we can see that. Unfortunately, in the last regime, the pace of cooperation was not as quick. But before the last regime, that's the regime which was in 2013 to 2018, or from 2008 to 2013, in those regimes, we see that these projects, the Chinese projects in Pakistan, they were very, speedy. So the same mindset, the same political leadership which was in 2013 to 2018, they are back now. So this is a very good thing for the CPEC. And by the way, the Chinese foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, he was in Pakistan maybe a month within the last month.
That's right.
So he was in Pakistan, and he met with, because Pakistan hosted the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers meeting, and which was the huge event. Like more than 50 countries, Islamic countries representatives were there. Also, some of the observers countries, which were headed by the Chinese foreign minister. So yeah, Pakistan currently has now well positioned itself as one of the best friend of China, especially in Asia, and the best friend of China in South Asia. So we are hoping, that both the scale and speed of these Chinese projects in Pakistan, they will pick up in this region.
Dr. Kahut, I want to ask you one more question before we move on to another topic. As we know that right now in China, and of course, across the continent, this is something that everyone is talking about, the pandemic. And the pandemic, unsurprisingly, hit Chinese cities this time, especially the city like Shanghai, which is very devastating. And people experience not only this psychological lockdown, but also this physical lockdown. Again, some experts continue to make the point to say this time that could actually hurt or potentially can influence Chinese economic progress, directly or indirectly. So I want to know from your perspective, how do you see the lockdown in Shanghai right now? And do you think that, or how much influence, this economic influence, will actually have on China in a general sense? So in other words, do you think that this lockdown or, the comeback of the pandemic could actually bring something or, can show us the negativity of the economy in China? What is your perspective?
Well, you see, unfortunately, this pandemic phenomenon, this is not only China thing, it has hit very badly across the globe. I mean, you name any country and this pandemic has created havoc in that country, including Pakistan as well. Well, China, the impact of the impact of pandemic on the Chinese economy, I think it has, a lot more devastating effect because historically China has been the factory of the world. China is producing, you name any product in the world, China is producing, and you name the Apple, Ford, Tesla, like any big company. So their manufacturing and their plants are in China. So the impact of pandemic on the Chinese economy through these manufacturing hubs, so they are there, nobody can say that. Nobody can avoid these losses, actually. Talking specifically about this Shanghai, because Shanghai is the financial capital of Asia, like after Hong Kong, you can say that. So I must say, so if we keep in view our eye on the pandemic and after effects in Wuhan, we see that Chinese economy rebounded, exceptionally well. So being a student of economics, I believe that in the short run, maybe we see some slow economic rate of growth. We may say that we may see some of like the unemployment. We may see the decrease in the some of the exports of the manufacturing goods. We may see the the devastating impacts on the shipping lines. But in the long run, keeping in view the rebounding capacity of the Chinese economy and the resilience of the common people here, so I'm not very pessimistic about it. And soon, maybe maybe in the first quarter of 2023, we'll start seeing that this rebounding effect of the Chinese economy will be there, because the very base of the Chinese economy, it's not very dependent on other countries, and it is self-sufficient, in all of the basic commodities, and recently we have seen in the field of renewable energies, China is leading the world. So in the long run, I think that China will pick it up again.
Dr. Kahut, I want to move on to our next topic. Let's talk about something that the whole world has been watching closely, which is the war in Ukraine right now. Again, more than a month later, and Vladimir Putin has not shown any positive action or show any attitude that pulling the troops away from Ukraine. As a matter of fact, rumor has it that he's more likely going to implement more strategies or more political influence to the country of Ukraine. Now, we know that how brutal and how devastating the war could be, but meanwhile, from the Ukrainian side, the current leader of Ukraine, Zelensky, has been actively asking support and help across the world. And just based on the report came out this morning, Zelensky actually asked the South Koreans, the South Korean government, to support them, by resources or possible military equipment and stuff. And I'm sure that China is on the list, and, again, Pakistan, any other countries. So, Dr. Kahut, from your perspective, how do you think that the countries such as Pakistan, such as India, such as South Korea, China, again, in general, should respond to the request from Zelensky? That's the first question. And the second question is, why do you think today, in the year of 2022, that we're still witnessing and experiencing such devastating war that no one has ever predicted at the first place?
Yeah, first of all, this is very unfortunate that in this global, pandemic, tough times, this world is witnessing one of the devastating war. It is not less than any full-scale war, right, in this 21st century. So first of all, it is very unfortunate, and we all should, without any doubt, we all should condemn it. The second thing, the first part of your question, you talk about the appeal of the Prime Minister Zelensky of the Ukraine. So he has not appealed only to some specific country. Actually, he has appealed to the whole world, specifically the European countries, the United States, Canada, and also the China, and also Pakistan, and all of these countries. So this is a good approach, because he didn't went all in all by himself. He actually tried to incorporate the global scholarship, the global intelligentsia, to come forward and try to control the devastations, which has been caused by this war. Second thing, the migration, we have seen that, virtually more than 70% of their non-male population, like including kids, old people, the women, the girls, they have been migrated in large numbers to the neighboring countries. So this is also, one of the, you can say the positive thing, that the world still they have the empathy. The European countries, they opened their borders, they incorporated the war-torn citizens of Ukraine, and also we have seen that that more than 80% of the countries at the United Nations, they have condemned this act of war of President Vladimir Putin of Russia. So these are the tough times. We have seen this the conflicts between Ukraine and Russia. They have, like, specifically in 2014, when the Crimea, which was earlier the part of Ukraine, it was again annexed to the Russia. So this conflict, which has now been converted, unfortunately, to a full-scale war, the only way to control it and to stop it immediately is through the role of some of the big players of this world, including China. US has already, I don't know what are they doing, but they have been failed in, stopping or, playing their part, although they have played their role, thousands of kilometers away in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, God knows where. But in this case, they have done nothing. And the second part of your question, you talk about war. That why this war? Yeah. You see that, Mr. Will, the most important thing is in between the neighboring countries is the mutual cooperation. So for the mutual cooperation, there should be some pacts, there should be some deals, there should be some, confidence building measures, CBMs between the neighboring countries. So in the absence of all these confidence building measures, any country, it is vulnerable towards any conflict. Just take the example of, China and Russia. They are the bordering countries, but they are in very good terms because they have, very good relationship historically. And you take the example of China, Pakistan. They are the neighbors. They are very good relationships. So, the only way to preempt the conflict, not talking about war, to preempt the conflict is the continuous engagement between two countries. And in the form of Belt and Road Initiative, we have seen that China has given a platform to the Global Committee of Nations to come forward and cooperate with each other, not only for themselves, but for the well-being of their coming generations.
Dr. Kahut, I know you're very busy, and I have two more questions before letting you go. Now, let's talk about, again, regarding this war in Ukraine. Not too long ago, I came across one article. To summarize the article in a nutshell, the writer believed that when we are dealing with Vladimir Putin today, it's similar as we're playing with someone on a chessboard. So in other words, when you are playing chess with someone that, number one, is so unpredictable, and number two, rules are rules, but sometimes rules can be unconventional. But last but not least, if you don't know the players well, and you are more likely to be trapped, or you're more likely to fall into the trap which is set up by the players. So, Dr. Kahut, from your perspective, would you agree that today, when we are dealing with someone like Vladimir Putin, when we are dealing with someone has such this unpredictable personality, how careful should we? And if we are being too careful, is it necessary, or you think that today it's only the phase of what we are seeing today?
This world is not more unipolar. Now this world has become multipolar. Gone are the days of the old Cold Wars, when this world was, on the one side there was the US, on the other side there was Russia, and then there are some developing countries. They were called the non-aligned members of the nation. Gone are the days. Today we are living in the world which has become multipolar. On one end we have the US, on the other end we have China, right? And we also have Russia. We have this, and then there are so many blocks. You name it. You have the BRICS, you have SAARC, you have ASEAN, you have G20, G7. Numerous blocks are there. Then we have this new BRI countries bloc. 140 plus countries which are the signatories of this China's global and ambitious this BRI initiative. So to preempt the war, as I have said earlier, the only way to move forward is through the global cooperation. The only way forward is to sit on one table, bring all the stakeholders, have a dialogue, and to set the future pathways. This is the only way. Because in the war, one party is the aggressor and the other party is the aggrieved. Unfortunately, or the irony of the fact is, both of the parties think that they are on the right side. But guess what? Who is at the receiving end? The common people. So unfortunately, the aggressor never think about the common people. They always think about their own long-term or short-term goals or gains. But ultimately, war is a menace. War is a humiliation for the humanity, I must say. So this is the critical moment. We have already crossed this pandemic.
That's right.
And, including China, many countries are still suffering from this pandemic. And to adding salt to the wound, and then now this war. So I think this is a very bad thing. The only way to move forward is through the global dialogue and through more and more CBM, which is confidence building measures. No other way at all.
Dr. Kahut, I want to end our conversation with another major country that close to China, but has been on the back burner for the US and also for the European countries for a while. It's the country of Afghanistan. Dr. Kahut, again, you know this more than I do, is China sees opportunities in Afghanistan, not only politically, but also economically. As we mentioned before, the foreign minister Wang Yi, actually during his recent trip, he met up with a representative from Afghanistan, from the government, acknowledged their presence. Now, such behavior can be, or I guess were, interpreted by the US government as a threat. Not just a threat to the U.S., but also the threat politically to international security, etc. I'm not going to go into all the rantings from the U.S. government. But from your perspective, again, the last question I want you to comment on is, why do you think China is so interested in Afghanistan? And in return, how do you see those two countries are going to enhance their capabilities or enhance their economic partnership between those two countries? So again, I guess the universal question is, what is it in for China in order to consolidate or to strengthen the relationship with the government of Afghanistan right now?
Yeah. Talking about in the perspective of this recent, the great phenomena, which is the Belt and Road Initiative, I think the Afghanistan is one of the most important partner country of the China. Because through Afghanistan, first of all, Afghanistan is a landlocked country itself. So it needs to cooperate with some country which has ports, right? So in this whole region, which country has a lot of ports, large number of ports? Of course, China, right? So it is a win-win situation for both the Afghanistan and China. So one way through Afghanistan, China can get access to the Central Asian countries. And through like using Afghanistan, the Central Asian countries can uh, access the Chinese markets. So it's a win-win situation for both of the countries. Talking about the US, unfortunately, we have seen that US has this habit of poking its nose in someone else's affairs. Unfortunately, yeah. So this time too, they are doing this. They have forgotten that they have fought a long war of 20 years in Afghanistan along with their NATO allies, and they have achieved nothing, right? So virtually they have left Afghanistan over a midnight, leaving behind the chaos, the utter poverty, the total instability, the devastation, the hunger, joblessness, inflation, you name any economic fallout, Afghanistan is facing that, right? So this is the time that Afghanistan needs more and more building partners in peace. Who better than the China itself? So, if you remember last year, the Afghanistan, people who are now in government, but before that, they visit Tianjin, and they had a dialogue with the Chinese authorities, and they have got some settlements. And after that, there's a continuous engagement of Afghanistan with China, and very recently in Anhui province, China hosted Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all the neighboring countries of Afghanistan. Chinese foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, actually hosted all the foreign ministers there. So all of these engaging like activities of China with the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, I mean, this is the only thing, as I said earlier, the global engagement, the confidence building measures, the conversation, the dialogue. This is the only way forward, and in this way, we can hope for the more